Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here. Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? It's been a while since I've done a Friday live stream, but it was requested from the goals that I put in earlier in the week, so we do have one here. I don't have a lot of content for you guys, but we'll see how it goes. And I've got at least one funny video in between as well to have a bit of a laugh as well. But this isn't like a Friday Lights or anything like that, guys. This is serious stuff as usual. So welcome to the Snowflake conference, where we cover various different conflicts around the world. We're going to be looking at Myanmar. We're going to be looking at what's happening with what's the latest report from Haiti as well. One of the latest reports from Haiti. We're going to be looking at the Democratic Republic of Congo today. We have one story over in the Middle East, a girl with regards to the West Bank, and then we're going to look, and then finally we'll look at the current war in Ukraine and deep state map as well. And then we have one funny video in between. Excuse me, as some of you guys may or may not know, I do have a bit of a sore throat, but I did manage to record a ton of content today despite my sore throat. I've been drinking galloping guns and guns of water to keep myself going, but this is episode 11 of the Snowflake conflict. We are the date and time of this is the 7th of February 2025 at 7 p.m. UK time. We are dual streaming live on youtube.com/Reganelite. Make sure you hit that like button and share across social media and subscribe. And we're also on twitch.tv/Reganelite1. Make sure you hit that follow button and hit the bell notification icon to be notified whenever I go live on that Twitch stream. For some reason, the Twitch chat's not coming up again today, so unfortunately for those on Twitch, I will not be able to read your messages, so I do sincerely apologize. The first story we're going to cover here today, guys. In fact, actually, we're going to be watching a video, so because I think this is actually going to be quite interesting considering. And now I know this one's about 6 days ago, but I still think it's worth reading and listening to. So 4 years after the coup, Myanmar's regime prepares for violence and messy polls. So the pressure is building on Myanmar's military regime to hold national elections that opposition forces have prompted to disrupt. As we know, that things in Myanmar, there is still this civil war, and that the military junta still have the most executive control over the country, despite the fact that they have lost a lot of territory to different rebel groups in different parts of this country. And it is still problematic for China, because China obviously wants to use Myanmar's as a because of where Myanmar is situated country-wise. It's not ideal for them, this conflict or situation. It's not ideal for anyone, but one thing this conflict has done, for all the negative and all the loss of life has done, it has brought some groups together in defiance against this military junta who overthrew the regime here. Jao, good to see you there. Hope you're doing well. Good morning, Steve McMorran, and Simon says 55. I really do hope that 4 years after this, that somewhere along the lines, that there will be peace at some point for Myanmar. So I'll read a bit into it before we watch a video on this guy. So Myanmar's 2024 consensus was almost certainly the most contagious and deadly ever conducted. Emirates and the heavily armed guards for Myanmar's military were subject to repeated attacks from opposition groups, as they stumbled through a failed attempt to document the country's population between October and December last year. One incident in early October saw 7 soldiers provide security for census takers in Mandalori region kill with an explosive device, and days later 3 more soldiers were killed when the opposition forces hit the vehicles with shoulder-launched rockets in the Kenyan state and in the country's east. The center was in utter abject failure, Richard Holson, Myanmar's advisor to the International Crisis Group, had told Al Jazeera. But the regime has declared it a marvelous success. So some of you guys may have... We covered a video with this lovely lady on Al Jazeera before, and I think it's worth us, given the circumstances of my throat, I think we'll let some others speak for me as well, guys. Richard Grumpy Kit, good to see you there. Hope you're doing well. And Mad Monk 33, hope you guys are doing well. So let's have a listen to a bit more on Myanmar to help us out here.
Let's talk about the war in Myanmar.
I can't say the name properly.
Opposition forces are trying to overthrow the military, which has been in power for decades. and it looks like they may have the edge. All kinds of people have joined the fight, from established armed groups to students and activists who want democracy.
The military, if you like, is on the ropes.
Is losing significant land, civilian territories.
Myanmar is now at the verge of state failure.
Millions of people have already been displaced. There are now warnings of famine and reports of all sorts of atrocities being committed. So what's behind the fighting? And could the military regime really be about to fall?
Yeah, because we've been hearing about it for quite a while, to be fair. It's something we've heard about for quite a while, and we've covered for a various bit. But I think, you know, as you guys know, I'm not an expert when it comes to this stuff, which is why why I have in the banner of my YouTube channel on the homepage is Learning Together. And good to see you, Daily Blase. Great show as always. I was listening to the majority of it while I was doing work. Thank you for another fantastic Friday Frolics, my friend. We really appreciate the fun and banter, because we all need it every now and then. And you provide it every week for us. So thank you so much for the work you do there. And not just that, but obviously the work, the videos you do as well. So we really do appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to next week's show. I believe it's next week. Yes, it is next week. Daily Blase, Big Madge Studios, and Random Scottish History coming together for a show next Wednesday coming up, guys.
Myanmar, which used to be called Burma, is in Southeast Asia, sandwiched between all these countries. And to understand what's going on there now, we need a quick backstory. For decades, a repressive military regime has been in charge, ruling over a very diverse country made up of more than 100 ethnic groups. Myanmar was heavily sanctioned and isolated from the world. It was seen as a kind of pariah state. But from about 2011, things started shifting and led to a period that some people call Myanmar's experiment with democracy. The ruling generals agreed to share power with a civilian government. There were elections in 2015, and a party called the National League for Democracy, or NLD, won. It was led by Aung San Suu Kyi, who'd been the face of the opposition for decades and had spent almost 15 years under house arrest. In 2020, the NLD won again, by a landslide. But the military disputed the result. They staged a coup to take back power. Aung San Suu Kyi was detained and then sent to prison, although it's not clear where she's being held right now.
So pretty much, essentially, that the military, who've had control of this country for such a long time, a very, very long time, and then they let their hand slide. They let democracy slip in. And as they let democracy slip in. And over time, you saw, Ben Shaw, good to see you there, buddy. Hope you're doing well. And anybody else lurking in the chats. And you see over time, people are thinking, you know what, this whole democracy thing, having my own voice, you know, this sounds pretty cool. Because you always have to remember, guys, we are looking from the outside in. So these people don't know what it's like to have the freedom to speak without repercussions, to have elections, to have being able to have your say. A lot of these people have never experienced anything like that, so it's a very different kind of thing to them. So for them, it's really a wake-up call for them.
What came next led to a full-scale civil war that is still going on.
Myanmar's 10-year journey to democracy appears to be over.
The military takeover has sparked the biggest demonstrations seen in Myanmar in more than a decade.
A stark warning from the UN Special Envoy on Myanmar, quote, a bloodbath is imminent.
Security forces shot more than 100 people dead.
Peaceful demonstrations were responded to with massive violence by the military. This violence made them even more determined to get the military out of politics.
Well, this is the problem when the military have been in power for so long. I think they just didn't want to give it up. They just didn't want to, you know what, we don't like democracy anymore. We're going to get rid of democracy.
The people of Myanmar were not prepared to turn back the clock. Since then, the people have built up their armed resistance to the military. And the situation now in Myanmar is unprecedented.
After 4 years of fighting, the map of Myanmar now looks like this. The military regime has lost a lot of territory, especially in the last year. It now only has full control of 21% of the country, according to a BBC investigation. But that includes the capital, Naypyidaw, and other big cities. The rest is controlled by a range of different anti-military groups. You can see there are lots of them, but they roughly fall into two main categories. You've got the ethnic armed organizations. These are groups that represent different ethnic minorities, and they've been fighting against the military for more rights, autonomy, even independence for a long time.
These wars go back 60 years. It's nothing new. There have been periods of greater or lesser violence in these wars, but they have been continuous since the military became the dominant power in Myanmar in 1962.
Every minority in Burma has their own stories to tell you how much they are suffering. So that is a main driving force for these minorities. They feel that we must protect ourselves.
As well as the ethnic armed groups, the other main category on the anti-military side are the resistance groups that emerged in response to the 2021 coup, when many of the protesters decided to pick up weapons with the goal of ending military rule and restoring democracy. You had all sorts of volunteers joining the fight: students, lawyers, medics, and a lot of them have been trained by those ethnic armed groups in secret jungle camps. And over time, they've become a more effective and better equipped fighting force.
A lot of Myanmar citizens, they've been donating money to the resistance movement. Eventually, they grow exponentially.
One of the things that's made a huge difference in the last 6 months is weapons the pro-democracy forces have seized from military bases they've overrun.
The main resistance group are the People's Defense Forces, or PDF. These are the areas they control. The PDF are essentially the boots on the ground for a rival opposition government that was set up after the coup, called the National Unity Government. Now, while the PDF have been pretty effective, it's really the ethnic groups that have been making the difference.
Much as the NUG would like to claim this military success of the resistance as its own, what's happening on the battlefield in Myanmar is primarily being driven by the ethnic armed groups.
For example, one group, known as the Arakan Army, is now in full control of the border with Bangladesh after pushing the military out. In this video, you can see soldiers waving white flags and surrendering. There are lots of reports of how the military have been struggling to get enough people to fight for them.
That's one thing I remember covering on many occasions here, about how there was reports, I remember a while ago, that they tried to push a lot of civilians into the military by force, and if they didn't, they would kill them, in a desperate attempt to pull back the numbers. But the state, obviously, it's been a bit difficult for the state because they can't afford uprisings in the areas they control the military, because they're already dealing with, as you could see from that map, a number of battles already.
Massive number of surrenders to the People's Revolution side.
We know that morale is very low, that they have introduced conscription and are literally kidnapping young men to fight in the military.
Sending them to the front line, using as a human shield. This is the biggest crime going on in Burma.
So you've got this situation where the military, which used to be all powerful, is really under pressure. Could the regime actually fall, though? Well, plenty of people are predicting that it's only a matter of time.
This illegal coup attempt by the military, now we can say for sure it has failed. One of the very reasons is because of the very unwavering determination and resilience of the Myanmar people. Especially the young generations are absolutely resolute in their fight to end this military operation once and for all.
Yeah, and very important that the younger generation, for some of the younger generation, you have to remember that obviously it was from 2011 onwards is when they started going towards the tone of democracy, the country itself. And obviously, as younger kids were born and obviously growing into this idea of being able to have that, and then all of a sudden you have this military rule, and as they grow up they learn about the history, their past history, and then they find that the military wants to take things back to the way they was, and it's like, no, I don't want the same history as my fathers and my grandfathers. I don't want that. And I'm prepared to fight for that. I'm prepared to fight for my country. I'm prepared to die for it. And that's exactly what's happened. Gaffel, good to see you there. Hope you're doing well. And anybody else who may be lurking in the chats.
Should not be surprised if sudden and dramatic change comes to Myanmar. Maybe I wouldn't predict it, but we shouldn't be surprised when it happens or if it happens.
A lot would still need to happen for the regime to finally go. One big advantage the military has is air power.
And it uses these weapons brutally and basically adopts a scorched earth policy to seek to obliterate the villages, towns, and even cities that it has lost in the fighting on the ground.
The military also still controls the major cities. The PDF and ethnic groups would have to stage a pretty major offensive to take those cities. But there are big questions about whether they're all united enough to make that happen. Keep in mind, the ethnic armed groups are more focused on achieving autonomy in their own regions. Some are even fighting each other.
The ethnic armed groups do understand that if this current military is left in power in the center, they will never be at peace. But whether that translates into a willingness to expend enormous resources and lose a huge number of lives by marching on the central cities, that's another question entirely.
So what about pressure from other countries that could shift the balance of power? Well, just as Myanmar isn't really in the news much, there's not a great deal of diplomatic attention focused on it either. The main player here is China, but Beijing seems to be hedging its bets.
China is the only country that has been putting significant effort to address the issue. But on the other hand, that was mainly for protecting its own interest, but rather than resolving the issue in Myanmar.
China traditionally has tried to play all sides. It has been a supporter and armor of the military, but it's also armed most of the ethnic groups, directly and indirectly. I think China's major concern is to ensure that whoever wins the war in Myanmar, China is on that side.
China is just playing the waiting game, not picking a side, and that's exactly pretty much what my thoughts were about China in all of this, because you have to remember that China obviously has a land border with Myanmar as well, so you also have to take that into consideration. Because where it is geography-wise, people don't pay much attention to it. This is the thing as well.
And while the world's attention is elsewhere, the people of Myanmar are suffering a desperate humanitarian and human rights crisis, and it's getting worse. Parts of Myanmar are cut off with no internet, so it's hard to get information out. But there are reports of atrocities being committed by both the military and some of the armed groups. In Rakhine State, for example, civilians from an ethnic minority called the Rohingya are reportedly being killed and displaced by the military and the Arakan Army, which is the main ethnic armed group there. You've probably heard of the Rohingya, a mostly Muslim minority who've been persecuted for years. 750,000 fled to Bangladesh in 2017 to escape what the UN have called genocidal violence by the military. Aside from the reports of attacks on the Rohingya, the broader humanitarian situation in Rakhine is particularly bad. The UN is warning of famine there. But people all across Myanmar need help. 20 million, according to the UN, and nowhere near enough aid is getting in. 15 million people don't have enough to eat, while cyclones and floods have destroyed huge areas of farmland.
And that's really heavily impacted food security.
Now that the resistance controls so much of the country, including all of the major crossing points to Bangladesh, India, China, Laos and Thailand, there is no excuse not to provide massive humanitarian relief by land across those land borders. And this is a failure of the international system and of Myanmar's neighbours not to be undertaking this kind of humanitarian relief.
Yeah, that's one of the things is the humanitarian relief, but it's, as you saw there, even with that breakdown, like even with that whole breakdown, guys, you can see just how, where is it? I want to get the map there. If you could just see that map, like just how chaotic. There you go. You just see just how chaotic it is. With, you have so many different factions, as well as the military. It's just a war zone. It's an absolute war zone. And I saying Sylvester Stallone. And my heart goes out to these people because they have been through so much, and they're still going through so much right now. And for some of these ethnic groups, they just want to have their own. They just want to be left alone. For some of them, for the anti-government movements, they want to have their rights to be able to freely have their elections and have their say. I think even if this military ever falls, I can't see this working in the same way. Possibly, and I say possibly, Syria might turn out, because we don't know if Syria is still going to, because of what happened in Syria, we still don't know if that country is still going to, things are still going to calm there. I just cannot, I just cannot see that if this military falls, everyone all coming together and working together. I just can't see it, because there's so much history between so many sides. And I think what may happen eventually is perhaps the country breaking apart, and probably dividing into different parts in terms of protecting certain ethnic groups in doing so. And I know probably the people may not like that, but if it is a way of securing peace and stopping these conflicts, perhaps it is something that perhaps maybe the international community should seriously consider. Should the military fall, and the international community should look at possible plans for something like that, and put these proposals for whoever comes out on top of this. We don't expect it to be the military, because it's right now. Then it's not good on Bangladesh's side, and it's not good on all the other nations on the other sides of around this country. That's for sure. But I wanted to share this video because I think it does open up the perspective of what's happening in Myanmar, rather than me reading the long thread instead. But I thought that was, I hope that was more informative and helpful to you about what's happening in Myanmar. I know I'm not saying it correctly, guys. I need to practice it, but I did find that much more informative and helpful about what's happening there. But I will try to cover it whenever I possibly can for you guys. So the next story I've got for you guys is a piece from The Independent. So a new contingent of Kenyan police has joined the UN's back mission to fight the gangs in Haiti. So a fourth contingent of Kenyan police arrived in Haiti to help repel violent gangs as officials brushed off concerns of a halt in some US funding to the UN-backed mission. Yeah, so as if, situation obviously is still very dire in Haiti. Then you have obviously, this might shock some people, but it might not. They kind of rely on US aid, the country, because of what they're going through. And, as if some Haitians are already struggling as it is, they're probably going to die as a direct result of what Elon Musk is doing over in America with regards to what America are doing with regards to UN aid as well. To US aid as well, just to kind of throw salt into the ruins of everything. So let me try and break this down a little bit. So there was an agreement between the UN, the US, Kenya, and Haiti that Haiti would deploy its police force to come and assist Haiti in the gang violence, where the gangs control over, I think it's like 60-70% of Port-au-Prince, which is the capital of the country. There is gang violence up and down the country itself. I reported not too long ago, the last story I covered in Haiti was that they had a visit from the Colombian, I think it was from the president of Colombia, and they splashed out a ton of money, the Haitian government, on the welcome, which was so fucking infuriating when when many Haitians don't even have proper schools, proper education, proper jobs, and yet all of a sudden the government found money to roll out the red carpet for. I'm pretty sure it was the Colombian president or Venezuelan president. I'm pretty sure it was the Colombian one. That really ticked me off, considering everything that's going on here. But like, even that, it just feels like that at the moment that the Kenyan police they've constantly been throwing into this meat grinder is not really making a difference at all when it terms of repelling these gangs. They still have control. They're still causing chaos. They're still causing great deals of harm to people up and down. And this corrupt government, and it is a corrupt government, are doing not really anything about it. And that is the sad reality. So a full contingent of Kenyan police arrived on Thursday in Haiti to help repel gang violence as officials brush off concerns over a halt in some US funding to the UN-backed mission. The 200 police officers from East African country joined more than 600 other Kenyans working alongside Haiti's national police as part of a multinational force boosted by soldiers and police deployed by countries including Jamaica, Guantanamo, and El Salvador. I should apologize, because yes, there are forces obviously from other nations around trying to support and help out as best they possibly can as well. We are reaching close to our full strength, so the mission can start giving results. Guftin Altus, the mission fourth commander, said. He greeted the new officers in Haiti's main international airport, which remains closed to commercial flights because of the ongoing gang violence. Yeah, there were times where they had to close commercial flights because the airport has been under attack consistently by the gangs. They've been consistently under attack by the gangs. It's been very difficult for them. Alice Zakir, thank you so much for that 20. That's very generous, £20. Get round to Reganelite funds for the hard work of putting the consistent Bravo. Thank you. And I have recorded Regan's news round for you guys tomorrow as well. They'll be dropping at 6 o'clock for anyone who's interested as well. But thank you for that super chat. That's very generous of you. You've been a big supporter of mine. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for the support, and anybody else as well. So they're saying that they're reaching their close to their full strength, but like, is it going to make a difference? Is it really going to make the difference? Like, I generally want it to make the difference, guys. I really, really do. It's all well and good saying, "Oh, we finally got the numbers we need," but is it going to be enough? The latest deployment of Kenyan police forces comes 2 days after the US notified the United Nations that it was freezing $13.3 million slated for the mission as part of the sweeping freeze on foreign assistance imposed by US President Donald Trump. Aton said in a statement Wednesday that the amount frozen represents less than 3% of the ongoing assistance to the mission. We want to assure everyone, especially the people of Haiti, that the mission remains on track, he says. He noted that the US and other partners countries are still providing logistical, financial and equipment support, with flights arriving almost daily. Both Department of Defense and Department of State remain actively engaged in the mission's operations, Altun has said. The US State Department said it approved waivers of $42.7 million in foreign assistance to help the mission and Haitian police, including contracts to support forward operating bases, medical service and vehicle maintenance. He noted as recently as Tuesday, the US delivered much needed heavily armored equipment to the mission and Haitian police. So that's from Tuesday that they're still assisting the US, despite everything that's going on in the Trump administration. They're still assisting the operation in Haiti there. The Haitian people need security, said Haitian Prime Minister, he was never elected for the record. Alexei Dima Film Ezgi, and by the way, he was appointed by the council because the last council didn't like the last prime minister, so the last prime minister was ousted. So yeah, corruption all around here, guys, let's be clear. As he pointed to the plane on the tarmac, this is all the equipment that we promised is coming in. Dominion Republican President Luis Abinadel warned on Thursday during a news conference with US Secretary of State Marco Rubio that Haiti represents a threat to the entire region, including the United States. He said there is no time to lose. As he said, he called for more financial support for the mission. Haiti is drowning. Abinadel also called for more humanitarian aid to the violent-racked country that shares the island of Hispania with the Dominion Republic, saying it would help relieve the ongoing crisis and halt a wave of migration that would affect the US and other countries. There is no Dominican solution to the Haitian crisis, he said. The leadership of the United States is essential and irreplaceable. Rubio said the US is committed to supporting the UN-backed mission led by Kenyan police, and what it called for it to be broadened so it could effectively deal with the gangs. He said the issue of Haiti cannot be ignored. It's a tragedy, it's horrifying, it needs to be dealt with, and we're going to help, he said. Rubio added, however, I want to be clear, the future of Haiti belongs to the people of Haiti. Well, if the gangs get quelled and some kind of restoration gets paused, then a general election, this must be needed, and a new president, prime minister, or president, some kind of democratic election needs to take place, because this is something that the people have been crying out for a long, long time. William O'Neill, UN designated expert on Haiti, said Thursday that the mission plays a crucial role in helping local officers establish security. The Haitian National Police are outnumbered and outgunned by the gangs, he said. Steady and predictable funding for the mission requires all states to contribute, especially those in the region. More stability in Haiti will reduce pressure to migrate, which is in everyone's interest. I wonder where the gangs get their weapons and stock from. Do you think? Who do you think is supplying the gangs? Probably Cuba. Or I'm wondering who is supplying the gangs that's continuing that is keeping them going. Earlier, Rubio spoke with Kenyan President William Ruto to thank him for his country's leadership and mission to Haiti. Remains fully operational. Kenya's role, peace in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The mission, which began last year, struggling in the lack of funding as personnel, as gangs control 85% of the capital. 85% of the capital. That's really bad. And ongoing week-long attacks in the upscale community near the capital has killed some 150 people. Marine Yagon Gelis of the non-profit foundation the Gelis told Magalon 9 radio station on Wednesday. She said more than 100 homes were also set on fire. The attacks on Kursk that began the January 27th left more than 1,660 people homeless, according to the International Organization for Migration. This reports from Sandran in Puerto Rico. Cotto had reported. Yeah, because you can't do it on the island because it's just not safe. But if you're on the other side, in the Dominion Republic, it's perfectly all right. So at least the good news is at least, and I say the good news at least is that the US at the moment are still giving their full commitment and back into what's happening here, which is good. Is a good sign. And obviously more forces are coming in, and they're still getting more weapons and supplies in. But yeah, I think Cuban weapons all the way. Yeah, I think Cuba are playing a hand in. But they must be getting weapons and supplies from somewhere. The gangs, they need to find out where they are and cut them off somehow. That's what they need to do. It's a big problem. I think it's not going to solve all the problems, but yeah, I know it's a long process. Haiti is. I'm fully aware of that, guys. It's not going to be done overnight. It's not even going to take a few years. It's going to take decades for any kind of stability to come to that country. I'm fully aware of the significance of it. But they need to make the small steps in the right direction. And I really do hope that they push back these gangs, and I hope they get back control of the capital and eventually get control of the country. That is what I hope that eventually will come down to. But obviously, as they get more Kenyan police in, we will see if this works. I mean, my premise is always using the UN peacekeepers instead, but they can't seem to get that through. But that is the situation at the moment. Just realised the time. I didn't really want to go an hour and a half if I could help it. This next one here is from the BBC. So Mali's president ordered troops to withdraw from the Democratic Republic of Congo. So Mali's president, Legaris Chagweda, has ordered the military to begin preparing to withdraw from the peacekeeping mission in the violent Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Well, this, I mean, considering how chaotic it is, Congo, you know, they're trying to keep the peace, and it's just becoming more and more difficult for them to do so. So, for the sake of Mali's soldiers, they're thinking it's better to just get out now rather than trying to maintain a peace that doesn't look like it's going to be happening. Obviously, the city of Goma was captured a few weeks back that we've covered on here as well. But there is, obviously, I don't have the full details, the full story to give to you guys on Congo. That is something I need to find a deep dive video for us at some point that we will do, that I'll find for us to watch. I think that's what we need to get us a better understanding of Congo. But I have stated that obviously it is one of the most difficult nations in the world to get to, almost impossible to get the aid supplies to, and where it is geography and the landscape makes it incredibly difficult. And there's obviously lots of different ethnic backgrounds and groups as well as religions, so that obviously in turn leads to these conflicts. Tribes. I should say the word tribe instead of just ethnic backgrounds. But yeah, tribes dating all the way back, because obviously back, as we know in our history, that European and other European nations and whatnot decided to draw up the lands themselves, which they had no bloody idea what they were doing to the continent when they did it at the time. And yeah, it's not good. We don't know. I know there's obviously been talk about whether, we know there's been long history between Congo and Rwanda as well. It's pretty certain that the M23 rebels are being backed by Congo, but it's never been official as well. I think it's pretty fair to say as well. So let's just read into this, guys. So the Mawali troops are part of Southern Africa's regional blog's military mission. That's the SAMI DRC, deployed to Democratic Republic of Congo to help tackle the armed groups. So at least 20 peacekeepers, including 14 South Africans and 3 Mawalans, were killed as M23 rebels captured the key city of Goma, the capital of North Kyiv, promised last week. President Chawala said on Wednesday that his decision was meant to honour the declaration of the ceasefire by the parties, even though the fighting is continued. In a statement read on state TV on Wednesday evening, he said the withdrawal of troops would pave the way for the planned negotiations towards a lasting peace. Mawali's information minister Moses Kilu had told the BBC's Newsday programme that the planned withdrawal was being made in good faith. Yeah, that's right. It was Belgium. Thank you, Simon, for reminding me. Yeah, Belgium were the ones who controlled the swathes of Congo. He said a meeting by Southern African leaders last week in Tanzania on the sidelines of the African Energy Summit had passed a resolution to call for a ceasefire from all parties in the conflict, just to pave the way for peaceful negotiations. It is prudent to that agreement that the president of Mawali has seen fit to contribute to peace-building efforts by withdrawing troops from the region, so there is a peaceful negotiation. He was not incise exactly when the troops would leave, but said what remained were the operational aspects that had communicated the decision that the DR Congo president and the Southern African bloc. On Monday, the Rwanda-backed M23 rebel groups declared a unilateral ceasefire for humanitarian reasons, which was due to start the following day. However, fighting has since resumed, and the rebels have reportedly taken the mining town of Nibwe in the South Kivu province. So they called for a ceasefire, and then the next day they just kept on fighting. So they said it's a lie to hopefully drop the guards of their enemies. There's no good guys in all of this, by the way. South Africa has faced similar pressure, but President Cyril Ramaphosa has vowed to keep his troops in DR Congo, saying they are subject to the SAMI DRC mission, which has operational time frame and an end date. The military was initially deployed in 2023 and was last year extended until December this year. The SAMI DRC mission was authorized by the Southern African bloc SAD to have 5,000 troops in South Africa, Mawali and Tanzania. South Africa, which leads the mission, was to deploy 2,900 troops, and the rest are shared between Mawali and Tanzania, although it is not clear how many troops are currently there. Mawali has also had some soldiers in DR Congo serving under the UN peacekeeping force Mosquito. SAD leaders are due to meet in Tanzania this Saturday, so that's tomorrow, in a special joint summit with East African heads of state to address the DR Congo crisis. Bitter rivals DR Congo President Felix Tshisekedi and Rwanda's President Paul Kagame are both expected to attend. That's not, keep them in separate rooms, because that's going to be nasty. Meanwhile, the Ugandan military has denied reports that it has sent troops to eastern DR Congo because of the fighting in and around Goma. Since the capture of Goma, the rebels have been seeking to siege territory in South Kivu, especially the capital Bukavu. Congolese authorities have enlisted hundreds of civilian volunteers to help defend the city. The rebel group has appointed top officials, including the governor of North Kyiv, to administer the territory. For the first time since they seized Goma, the M23 on Thursday held a rally in the city that saw rebel leader Cornelius Nagala address large crowds in the United Stadium. A warrant for Nagala's arrest has been issued by a military court in Kinshasa, accusing him of war crimes and treason. There have been those accusations against him. The UN says that nearly 3,000 people were killed during M23's violent campaign to seize Goma. There are fears that diseases such as Mpox and cholera have spread beyond the city. The International Criminal Court has said its prosecutors are closely following the events in DR Congo, including the grave escalation of violence in the past week. Yeah, I'll try to keep up on... I've been keeping up on it really on short videos for you guys there. But that's the latest that's been happening that I have there at the moment. Because I did try to see if I can find something a bit closer. But that report was yesterday. So, which is probably the closest report I've been able to find when it comes to searching for this. But just trying to swallow there. Apologies. But do I ever expect peace in the country? No. But do I want peace? Of course I want peace. Everybody wants peace, but I'm not holding my breath on it, guys. Because there are reports, obviously, of some sorts of ethnic cleansing going on of some sorts in parts of Africa, which is absolutely horrible. But moving away from Africa, guys, I think it's time we try to get a better understanding of what is ethnic cleansing. And I think Larry and Paul, I know it's terrible switch here, guys, asks the question of what is ethnic cleansing?
Welcome to Broken News. Still to come, living it up in the Levant. We explore new and exciting real estate opportunities proving to be an open goal for investors. But first, the search engine Google has reported a 2,000% increase in the number of people asking, what is ethnic cleansing? It's after the mainstream press observed a respectful silence over the USA's latest batshit plan for the Middle East. Well, Mello Fingery is an expert on geopolitical affairs and haircuts of boy bands of the 1990s, and Mello joins us now. Hello, Mello.
Morning, Dawning.
Mello, clearly a lot of people are talking about it, but what is ethnic cleansing?
Well, Dawning, I think at this stage it might be quite useful to explain what ethnic cleansing isn't.
Right, okay, yeah.
Because as journalists, we have a duty to follow strict definitions. You can't just call anyone a Nazi, for example, even if they have a swastika tattoo, beat up all the gays, and goose step up to Aldi every day. But what is clear is that ethnic cleansing is not the mass expulsion of one ethnic or religious group from an area by those of another area.
Right, that's very interesting, Mello, because I think many people would think that what you've just said would be the definition.
Yes, and I think that's what is causing confusion. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
In the 1920s, during the pacification of Libya, Italian authorities forcibly removed 100,000 of the indigenous population and gave their valuable land and property to Italian settlers.
I see. So if, say, for example, here, the USA had a policy of forcibly removing an indigenous population in order to gain their valuable land,
that would not be ethnic cleansing. Yeah, correct.
Not. Okay, well, let's take another example. Let's talk about the treatment of Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar.
Oh, ethnic cleansing, totally. Classic ethnic cleansing. That is textbook ethnic cleansing.
But something like an American Muslim ban would therefore...
Oh, not even close. Not even close. Different thing altogether.
Right, okay. Perhaps, Mello, I'm not following here. Let's try this. Could a possible definition of ethnic cleansing include coercing a group of people to flee their homeland and then preventing their return by destroying all their property?
Oh, yes, indeed, such as burning villages in Darfur, for example.
Yeah, so if the USA had a hand in...
It would not come under that definition, correct, yeah.
Right. It just seems as though what you're saying is that these definitions don't apply if the USA has anything to do with it.
That's correct, yeah.
And why is that?
Well, because they're the good guys, aren't they? America are the good guys. You know. Sort of they police the world. USA, USA, USA. So.
Hello, thank you. What a lovely story. That's it from Broken News. You're up to date.
And there it is, guys. Your definition of ethnic cleansing. Everything but anything relating to the United States of America. I don't make the rules. They told me, guys. They told me. So, yeah. It's supposed to be humor, but at the same time, it's like, there's a part of me who wants to laugh, and there's a part of me that's like, there's a serious fucking point there. So, yeah, I know, guys. I know it's fucking stupid that America, apparently because it's related to America, no, it's fucking all right. But if anybody else does it, it's different. Oh no, it's Israel. No, we can't accuse Israel of doing it. No. Oh, Russia doing it. Russia bad. Oh no, what's happening in Myanmar? Yeah, bad. What's happening in Sudan? Yeah, bad. Oh no, can't say that about Israel. One rule for them, one rule for another. Excuse me. So guys, just before I go to the next story, just a reminder, hit that like button, share this across social media, subscribe if you haven't already. Oh my god, my stomach is playing up. Apologies. Yeah, hit that like button, share across social media, subscribe if you haven't too already. Do check out the Patreon and Rumble for additional content on those platforms as well. And do join us on the Discord community, which is free to join as well. Link for that is in the description. You can buy me a coffee as well. Check out all the links down below, guys. Be greatly appreciated. Plugging over. Let's move on. So this one here is from Middle Eastern Eye, guys. So Israel attacking hospitals and blocking medical aid in the West Bank, that warns the MSF. So Doctors Without Borders note significant increase in settler violence and systematic hindering of healthcare services. So we know that since the ceasefire in Gaza, which thankfully, and I do say thankfully, it's still holding at the time of this time of this live stream. We don't know if it's going to continue still when it approaches the second phase. We do know that there are negotiations taking place at the moment. The starts of negotiations are taking place, which is a good sign. I say a good sign. We can only say that. But while that's been happening, Israel have taken the opportunity to try and push more people out of the West Bank and make lives a living hell for anybody who isn't an Israeli in there. Any and all Palestinians have been getting a much harder time and taking out hospitals and medical facilities, because they know, and I'm sure that you know, that by taking out the medical facilities, those who are suffering and injured, who are Palestinians, they will die as a result by not being able to get to tend to their injuries. So, yes, that is happening, I'm afraid. But we knew they were doing this in Gaza anyway, because they demolished more than 90% of everything in Gaza, and every single time they took out a school or a hospital, they said it was a Hamas command center. That's what was their excuse every single time. What's their excuse this time? So Doctors Without Borders, MSF, has demanded Israel stop its disproportionate violence in the occupied West Bank in a new report investigating attackers on medical facilities. The latest findings by the Swiss-based NGO, based on data collected between October 2023 and October 2024, found that Israeli military incursions into the West Bank had intensified dramatically since the start of the war. The report draws its conclusions from 38 interviews and obstruction patterns witnessed by the MSF teams in the cities of Jen, Quadlilia, Tubas, and Tarquin. MSF teams have witnessed the aftermath of several incursions where military operations target and destroy critical utilities, including water systems, electrical networks, thus creating long-lasting medical and humanitarian impacts on Palestinian communities and obstacles to reaching healthcare facilities or the movement of ambulances, the NGO stated in its findings. According to the MSF, the escalation in violent tactics started before the beginning of Israel's war on Gaza in October 2023, with forces attacking civilian areas with airstrikes, and a practice with the group says it was not used since the Second Intifada in the early 2000s, and military drones. The report further cites findings by the United Nations Humanitarian Affairs Office, the OCHA, where 34% of injuries across the occupied territory since October 7th, 2023 were a result of live ammunition, compared to 9% of the first 9 months of 2023. This increase in aggressive modulus operandi since October 23 has not only severely impacted Palestinians' physical health and access to medical care, but has also created a perceived climate of fear and insecurity, rooted in all the intensity and unpredictability of the violence, taking a profound toll on the mental well-being, MSF has said. Moreover, the report indicates that the rise of settler violence and the illegal Israeli expansion into West Bank has also impacted access to health care for Palestinians in the area. Violence perpetrated by armed settlers often operate with the military presence and protection, has led to new patterns of healthcare obstruction through coordinated assaults on Palestinian communities, direct intimidation on healthcare workers and road blockages, creating zones of medical exclusion, particularly impacting remote communities and those living near settlements. Yeah, so when those people are desperate need of medical aid and assistance, Israel block it basically because they don't want help coming to them. MSF notes that Israeli forces have failed to prevent such violence and in some cases enable it and further attacks on medical personnel, resulting in Palestinians becoming more exposed to brutality than ever. Access to the health service in the West Bank has been further hindered by escalating assaults on medical infrastructure, ambulances and medical personnel. According to the data cited by the report from the World Health Organization between October 7, 2023 and October 7, 2024, 647 attacks on healthcare in the West Bank were recorded. That's between from October the 7th, when 2023, and since it started, since the real kicking off of it, that many people have been attacked. These are healthcare workers. Military raids have been characterized by systematic disruption to the delivery of healthcare services, with Israeli forces routinely encircled hospitals, refugee camps and villages, hence creating unprecedented barriers to medical access, MSF stated in its report. MSF Israel is inflicting harm, 25 health workers killed, with 120 wounded and 96 detained. 790 obstacles, including checkpoints, earth mounts, roadblocks and gates. 21 decreases in medical patients permit approvals, with 48% fewer applications. 647 attacks, as we read on the healthcare in the West Bank, including 451 transports and 123 health facilities. Several of those interviewed by the organisation have noted that due to such restrictions, life-saving services were obstructed, leading to patients suffering from long-term wounds and even death. In one instance, on the 16th of December 2023, an MSF project coordinator in Tughnam noted that during an Israeli incursion into Nard Sham's camp in Tusculum, several patients died from wounds that could have been treated if it were not for direct actions and obstruction of medical personnel and volunteers. So they intentionally stopped them from saving their lives because they wanted them to die. That day, the stabilization point supported by MSF was stormed and destroyed by the Israeli army under the pretext that it was hosting terrorist activities, the coordinator said. There were no terrorist activities, this was deliberate and intentional. Israel has made such claims several times in the wake of the controversial attacks and killings, which have tarnished the Israeli army's reputation for misinformation. While discussing with the volunteers, I noted a lot of anger and anxiety, and they were feeling guilty, the coordinator added. The videos they showed me depicting their efforts to stabilize patterns under heavy shelling were shocking. The truth is, there was nothing more that they could have done. The injuries would have been manageable and non-lethal. They had access to immediate hospital emergency care. More important included that MSF teams have observed Israeli forces deployed around the perimeter and hospital facilities supported by MSF. MSF note cases of soldiers entering the premise, trapped patients and medical staff, effectively besieging medical infrastructure and hindering services. Israeli military forces have justified their hospital incursions through claims of armed men and weapons and conduct these operations without providing evaluation orders or notifications to protect civilians, healthcare workers and patients, the report added. The number of Palestinians killed since October 7, 2023 in the occupied territory has reached 1,004, including 213 children, according to the latest figures published by the OCHA in January. Children. 213 children. This is the occupied territories, by the way. That's not even what's happening in Gaza, which we had before. This is still happening, and I will continue to cover it as much as I possibly can on the Rumble channel. So do check out the Rumble channel down below in the description. So I mainly cover Middle East stuff there as well. But no one's talking about it because guess what? Trump wants to be the center of attention because he says wacky and insane things that everyone has to stop and pay attention for. Meanwhile, Russia continues to do dodgy activities behind the scenes because nobody talks about Russia at the moment. And this continues to happen because it's not in the eyes, because everyone's eyes are paying attention elsewhere. But we're still going to keep talking about it here, guys. Also, what we're going to keep talking about is what's happening in Ukraine as well, guys. So we're going to read one or two stories from the Kyiv Independent before we look at the deep state map before we wrap up, you guys. So this is the first one from the Kyiv Independent. So apparently Ukraine launches a new offensive in Kursk Oblast, Russian media claims. Kyiv have yet to confirm. So I haven't refreshed this since then. So we're gonna read this and then I'm gonna refresh it and see if there's been an update on this story. So Ukraine's armed forces have reportedly launched a new offensive in Russia's Kursk Oblast, Russian media claimed yesterday on February the 6th. So according to Russian military bloggers, Ukrainian forces allegedly attacked southeast of Sushka, advancing towards the settlement of Faskinia and Yunganok. The Russian Defense Ministry claimed that Ukraine deployed up to 2 mechanized battalions for the offensive, and as a result of the alleged fighting, a gas pipeline was damaged in the Ruski district, Kursk Governor Alexander Klishkin had said. Ukrainian officials have not commented on the reported offense. So the possible operation follows President Volodymyr Zelensky's remarks on February the 5th that Ukraine's presence in the Kursk Oblast could play an important part in future negotiations to end the Russia war. Since August 2024, Ukrainian forces have maintained positions in Kursk Oblast following a cross-border incursion that initially captured about 1,300 square kilometers, that's 500 square miles of Russian territory. While Kyiv has lost roughly half of that area since then, combat operations continue. Over 6 months of fighting in the region, Russian losses have reached nearly 40,000 personnel, including over 6,000 killed. Ukrainian general staff have reported on February the 6th, further 909 taken as prisoners of war. Ukraine aims to use its foothold in Kursk Oblast as leverage in potential peace talks while continuing to target Russian military positions in the region. Russia's forces in Kursk Oblast have been bolstered by North Korean troops deployed last fall to help counter the Ukrainian incursion. Ukraine's Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrskyi acknowledged that North Korean troops are well-trained and motivated fighters who present a significant challenge to Ukrainian soldiers, that though they have reported suffered heavy casualties. At least 300 North Korean soldiers have been killed and another 2,700 wounded fighting in Russia's Kursk Oblast, South Korea's National Intelligence Service NIS claimed on the January the 13th. The heavy losses of the North Korean army may be related to its lack of combat experience and the tactics of human waves attacks with a limited amount of equipment, Ukraine's military intelligence chief Kyiv had said on February the 4th. According to... My voice is really starting to go, guys. I do apologise. According to Bannerwell, North Korea's soldiers attack almost without any combat vehicles. Bannerwell also suggested that North Korean military is also willing to advance on foot against Ukrainian drones and artillery because of its loyalty to North Korea's dictator Kim Jong-un. He added that their disregard for personal safety makes Ukraine's defence even more challenging. On January the 22nd, soldiers of the 8th Regime of Ukraine Special Forces Operation released footage of them resisting a North Korean assault in Russia's Kursk Oblast for 8 hours before retreating, killing 21 and wounding 40 soldiers. In a video, a large assault group purposely North Korean soldiers been seen crossing an open field and forest, followed by close combat footage with only dozens of meters between the two sides, and in the end graphic footage shows killed soldiers claimed to be North Koreans. At the 9th hour of the battle, the Special Operation Forces had only a third of their ammunition left. They spent the rest on destroying North Korean forces, the Telegram post read. The Ukrainian fighters held off assaults with small arms grenade launchers and snipers. Eventually, the Ukrainian troops retreated in 2 Humvees, the post read. We'll check the state map in them shortly, but we'll see how true that is there. Let's see what they're saying here. Zelensky says North Korean soldiers brought in again to fight in Kursk Oblast. That's not surprising. Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrskyi briefed Zelensky about new Russian attacks in Kursk Oblast. Day after Russian media claimed Ukraine had launched a new offensive. Yeah, the Kyiv Independent has not verified the claims. They've not responded, looks like it. So the New York Times reported on January the 30th that North Korean troops had been pulled from the front, and that Special Operations Forces spokesperson confirmed to Kyiv Independent that Ukraine's Special Forces had not faced Pyongyang soldiers for 3 weeks. Ukraine spy chief Kirill had denied his reports. He said the number of North Korean troops has decreased, and Ukraine is trying to establish why. A total of 60,000 Russian troops in Kursk Oblast and 60,000 have not replenished the already significant occupied forces in Kursk and other sectors in Donetsk Oblast, Zelensky has said. As of early February, about 8,000 North Korean soldiers were fighting against Ukraine in Kursk Oblast, according to Banabov. And yeah, we said all this already. 12,000, yeah, we've said those numbers already. Let's see what else there is on the left here. 2 Ukrainian military officers appointed as deputy ministers there. Ukraine's cabinet ministers appoint 2 new deputy ministers of defense. February the 7th, Tarnis Miskus, the cabinet representative parliament, announced that the deputy ministers are Lieutenant General Mezyevin Moskis and Captain Valady Cholkin. These decisions are part of a comprehensive approach to strengthen our armed forces, modernize management, and advance military technology, the defense minister Ruskin Omarov has said. The appointment came a week after Omarov faced backlash following the decision to fire Marina Broskus, the head of Ukraine's defense procurement agency. The minister replaced her with Arsen Zimmerov as temporary director, despite the agency's supervisory board voting to extend her contract days earlier. Looks like Ukrainian politics here. Omarov also dismissed Deputy Defense Minister Dmytro Kimrov and 2 agency supervisory board members. And I'm going to try and avoid saying the names if I can help it, guys, so I do apologise. In late January, the Anti-Corruption Bureau launched a criminal investigation into the potential abuse of power, as well as office positions by Omarov. Described as one of the most experienced officers in the Ukraine army, Moskos served as the Air Assault Force commander and was deputy to Commander-in-Chief Valery Zelensky. Earlier in the day, President Volodymyr Zelensky dismissed Moskos as a special commissioner on implementation of the international security agreement. He will be in charge of the development of Ukraine's defense forces, including mobilization and special training, Yumov has said. Chutton, who joined the armed forces at the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion, is the head of Ukraine's Center for Scaling Technology Solutions. As Deputy Defense Minister, he will focus on defensive innovations, technological developments in the Ukrainian army. There. You haven't got anything on the ground itself. Trump may meet in Washington next week, says Zelensky. President Volodymyr Zelensky may meet with US counterpart Donald Trump next week in Washington, he has said today. He said, I will be meeting with President Zelensky next week and we'll probably be talking to President Vladimir Putin. I'd like to see the war end, said the American leader during a press conference with the Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishii. I haven't seen that clip yet. Trump vowed to bring Kyiv and Moscow to the negotiating table swiftly end the full-scale war. Also says he wants to meet with Putin very quickly after his inauguration. The Kremlin welcomed Trump's comments but added no preparations were currently underway for a meeting. Trump and Zelensky are discussing Ukraine's underground rare earths and other things, according to the US president. Yeah, so this is for those who don't know this story. So let me just, so some of you guys may know that obviously Ukraine has some valuable resources, and Zelensky is basically touting Trump about giving him access to giving America access to these resources as a bargaining chip to kind of appease Trump. So that's what he's trying to do, to kind of sway him a little bit, you know, because one thing that Trump likes is money, and that will tempt him. Previously, Trump said that Washington was seeking Ukrainian rare earths in exchange for aid. Kyiv is open into mining with his partner, Zelensky said. It's unclear what exactly Trump meant by rare earths and other things. Ukraine is home to 20 of the world's critical minerals and metals like titanium, used in the aerospace and defense industries, and lithium, an essential component of electrical vehicle batteries. So basically what he wants is, we'll keep giving you aid and you guys give us some resources in return. This is what Zelensky will be saying to him. We want security because, you know, Europe is putting up much less than us, the US, Trump said. The meeting between Zelensky and Trump can take place as the US prepares to present a long-awaited plan to end Russia's full-scale war against Ukraine. Keith Kellogg, the US Special Envoy for Ukraine and Russia, said the plan will be introduced by Trump, but he did not specify a timeline. Still not. They're not giving much here on the side about what's actually happening on the ground. Like, they're saying, like, small little things. North Korean soldiers brought in Kursk, which we covered. Trump's ICC sanctions won't hinder Russia's war crime investigation, Kyiv says. Russia designates register of damage against Ukraine as undesirable organisation. We covered that one. Ukraine expecting important decisions at Ramstein meeting, foreign ministry says. Police investigate death of 32-year-old man at military enlistment office. Kyiv denies reports of alleged failed Russian Oscar missile launch at Ukraine. Buchma suspect becomes a top official in Russia's region. Let's see, I'm just scrolling because there's more options here. Russia to expand siege of foreign assets, veterans are reported. Just some of the reports might be worth more. Ukraine downs Russian guided bomb near Zaporizhzhia, Air Force has said. This was at 5 o'clock a couple of hours ago. Shot down Russian guided area bomb near the front line of southern city Zaporizhzhia today, Air Force spokesperson said. Guided aerial bombs, while heavy short-range missiles, are cheaper to produce and are launched from aircraft within Russian territory on Russian-occupied territories beyond the reach of Ukrainian air defense. They are nearly impossible to shoot down because they have heavy iron structures that come extremely fast from high altitudes, unlike cruise missiles, drones, according to experts. According to Illet, it was not the first time Ukraine had downed guided bombs. To counter the threat, we need a comprehensive approach, both the use of ground-based air defense and aviation components to drive the carriers of these KABs as far as possible, the spokesperson said, without specifying how the target was shot down. His remarks came after Telegram channel reported that Ukrainian soldiers had downed the guided aerial bombs on the morning of February 7th, allegedly using experimental weaponry. Russia regularly attacks Ukrainian frontline settlements with guided bombs over the past week. A total of 760 bombs were launched at Ukraine, President Volodymyr Zelensky had said. According to UN Human Rights Monitoring Mission in Ukraine, Russia guided bombs killed 360 Ukrainian civilians in 2024 and injured 1,861, a threefold increase in fatalities and sixfold increase in injuries compared to 2023. A lot of innocents have died as a result of the actions of Russia, unfortunately, guys. Leapskin, good to see you there. Hope you're doing well. My voice is really cracking up, as you guys can tell, so I'm just going to give you guys a quick show. I'm going to show you guys because I don't want to keep going because my voice is really crackling. So let me show you the deep state map. Link for it is in the description if you ever want to look at it yourself, guys. So this is the currently deep state map. Let me just zoom out for those who are new to this. It's supposed to normally up. Okay, so they still have an update. This is the latest update from yesterday. So the context there, so you can see the map of Ukraine. The green bits were bits that were liberated or counterattacks from when Ukraine did its counterattack. The bits in red that you can see there are Ukrainian territory seized by Russia. The purple is where they annexed Crimea back in 2014. The other bit is when forces within that territory before the war turned on Ukraine. So they've pretty much essentially remained loyal to Russia. And then finally this little bit here, which you can't see unless I zoom in. That blue little territory is what was liberated liberated, I don't know if that's the right word, seized Russian territory. Because obviously the blue line is Ukraine, and the other side of this blue line that you can see, that's separating the two countries. And then this is obviously Russian territory. So I'll show you here. So this is actually used to be, whoa, we've gone way too close there. I'll pull it out a little bit for you guys, just give it a second. Right, so if I just pull back a couple of days, there hasn't been much change in any movement whatsoever. According to this deep state, nothing has really changed in terms of movement. But allegedly, obviously, North Korean soldiers are using... North Korean soldiers are allegedly supporting Russia when it comes to trying to seize this land back. And obviously, as it said there, to try and use it as a bargaining chip. They haven't... they have pushed... This has been one of the hardest places that Russia have had when it comes to pushing. But I'm just pulling it back a couple of days there. And if you watch on the map, you can see there hasn't been too much movement in these areas. Ukraine have done a very good job of holding these territories, but as I continue to pull back, you will see some slight movements here, because this is not where Russia are mainly focusing their forces, but they are trying to push through. But this part of the war is very difficult, because Ukraine are quite solid and quite strong in these areas, so they've not been able to do too much here. It is unfortunately even this area here, just where the center of the cursor screen is here, there's not been too much movement here. But if you look here, one of the tactics that they've been doing, and it's one of the simple war tactics. Anyone who plays video games or war games or any kind of thing, we know that one of the key tactics is to, rather than trying to beat your enemy, is to surround them, cut off their supplies, and then leave them hanging. And when they're in that situation, they're screwed. Because if they can't hold, what Ukraine tends to do is that if the forces can't hold their land, they'll pull back, because they would rather seize land than lose the Ukrainian soldiers, because every single Ukrainian soldier's life is at risk here. So if I just even if I pull down here, like you can see here, just here is a prime example here of them trying to seize round and cut off enemies. I mean, imagine if they pulled this road here down to Bestock there, the main road there. Like, they could, in theory. I mean, it's unlikely, but it's just as an example, guys. I'm just using as an example of them trying to seize territory. But yeah, here, this is a good example of it. So here you can see they're trying to surround Ukrainian soldiers and cut off this point. Now, I'm going to go back. So this is the latest one. This is the 6th of February. So I'm going to start going back by day. So yesterday. If I keep pulling it back, you can see that this is going all the way back to, so this was back from the 20th here. So from the 20th, and they've not been able to hold land, and you can see just every single day, just pushing a little bit further, Russia. And you can see here that they're really trying to get here. Yeah, they're really trying to get here. I think ideally what they want to do is try to cut them off. Yeah, it's going to have to get to a point where the Ukraine soldiers will need to pull out. Otherwise, they'll lose out. Now, those who have been following for a long time know that it was roughly about a year ago, I think it was about a year ago when they seized Avika. You remember? I think it was pretty much roughly a year ago now. Since then. And this is how much territory they've gained since then. They've taken Shevchenko as well. And they've almost, yeah. Here is where they've gained the most territory, guys. So if I pull it back here, you can see. Every day, this is where they're pushing. Every day, this is where they're pushing the most. Because Ukraine can't hold it. Ukraine have not been able to hold. And they put the majority of Russia's aggression has been in this part of the war more than anything. It's very, very rough, to say the least. There's not been, I'm not going to scroll in and out here, but there's not been too much movement down here along the south here. There may have been some skirmishes, as I said, over on the right there, but nothing really too much has happened too much along here. And of course, here, the Kursk River, which is protecting. So during the counterattack, they seized the land. Ukraine seized the land back, and they've been able to hold the Dynamo River. This is the Dynamo River that's in between. That's been able to hold off Russia trying to seize. Once again, they're looking to try and push over the bridge, but they're not going to be able. They're not going to be able to do that. But they've always launched missile strikes, artillery fire, and whatnot over in Kursk. But so far, so good. They have managed to. They have held it ever since the counterattack, Ukraine. So the river has been a blessing in disguise there. This big river all the way up to Zaporizhzhia has been a huge blessing in disguise in terms of that part. But that is the situation at the moment, guys. Obviously, it's not 100% accurate. We don't know 100% for sure. But I do use the deep state map as a reading of where things are in terms of last. But still, every single day, guys, as you know, they are losing territory. But I do hope that there's, as far as I'm aware, and please just tell me in the chat before we wrap up, has Trump rescinded any of Joe Biden's decisions when it came to supplies for Ukraine? Because I don't remember hearing anywhere of Donald Trump actually saying stop all these supplies for Ukraine, like cut them off. I don't recall any of those. I don't recall an executive order specifically on that as well. Now, I'm pretty sure Trump has not done anything in terms of stopping any of that aid or any of those equipments and whatnot going to Ukraine in the run-up to President Trump takeover. I'm pretty sure he didn't undo any of them. QA Library says, this week there has been a 30% slowdown in Russian attacks due to oil refinery bingo Ukrainian supply, and thus reducing petrochemicals being supplied to Russian troops. Thanks for that, QA. Appreciate it. Weapons are still being delivered, says QA Library. Not heard anything about that, says Alistair Kier. Jao said he could not stop them if they were already en route, so what's coming in was not stopped. That's true. If they were already sent out, he couldn't stop them. But I'm wondering if the agreements that he's already put in Biden, would he allow them to continue? But like I said, I haven't seen or read anything where he's saying he's stopping those ones that Biden signed off in the last week or so before he left office. I do think that's food for thought, guys. With that said, guys, so we covered quite a bit today here on the Snowflake conflict. I want to say a massive thank you guys for all coming along. Thank you guys for all your comments. I appreciate it as well. Oh, just one last thing. QA Library says but there is no new aid budget for Ukraine for the coming year after all the weapons being sent. Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard nothing about them saying that they're going to be sending anything. No, that is true. Yeah, but I've definitely not heard anything either. Yeah, they're not planning anything. So the premise is that Europe needs to step up because obviously, yeah, once the rest is gone, it's going to be like, where they go next? Who's going to step in next? I think Germany's been the second biggest supporter. I think in Europe is the second biggest supporter for Ukraine. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure they've been the second biggest. I think we're like fifth or something. Pretty sure. Yeah, pretty sure. Trump has not announced any new weapon deliveries. Yeah, I know he has. Yeah, but yeah, thanks guys for all coming along. I'll be lurking in Max's chat as well. So thank you guys all for coming along. Greatly appreciate. I hope you guys found the news we covered informative or helpful to you in any way, shape, or form. I have already pre-recorded Regan's news round for tomorrow. I'm dropping it at 6 o'clock tomorrow. 6 o'clock. Just bear that in mind. At 6 o'clock. It's not going to be at 8. It's not going to be at 7. It's going to be at 6 o'clock. So if anybody wants to watch that along with me at 6 o'clock, you're more than welcome to. I may not record World News Round. I know I didn't record it last year. I really want to record it, but obviously my voice is banged up, as you guys know. I'm not sure when I'm going to have time to record tomorrow, but I will see. But thank you guys all for coming along. Thank you again, Alistair Kier, for the super chat. We will see the gang just one moment before we head out. What did you guys make of the show today? Blaze said he was very happy with it. Ollie was very, very happy that Alistair Kier gave that generous super chat today as well. And Pingu says, no, I'm not saying that, Pingu. Don't be so silly. I'm not saying what he said. He just said something very, very nasty there. But keep playing with the damn orb, don't you? Can you stop playing with the orb, you? Can I turn it on? Hold on. Ah! Oh, the orb has been empowered once again, guys. The plug is... If anyone wants to know why the orb is never always on, there's a problem with the plug. I have to fiddle with it to get it on now, which sucks. Yeah. So guys, take care. And thank you guys all for coming along. But just before I go, if you haven't already, hit that like button. Share it across social media. Subscribe if you haven't. Do check out the Discord community. And join me on Rumble or Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms. Do check out the Patreon, guys. You can get free content on there. You don't have to pay to be a member. Pay to get content on Patreon. You can join it just for free, guys. Do check it out. Do check it out. Much appreciated as well. But yeah, check out all the links down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.